In this video, I want to talk about how my client Grayson signed 17 clients in 23 days. Over the last 7 weeks, he's gone from zero to $40,000 a month recurring revenue with a brand new offer. But more importantly, I want to talk about the secret sauce, like the thing behind the thing that sustains success and scaling when it comes to your coaching business. So you don't just be a flash in the pan, have one big month, one time, but you can sustain scaling and success over the long term. So let me circle back to a conversation I was having with Grayson just yesterday on a coaching call to kind of break down what's been working for him and most importantly, how you can apply this to your own business. On a call with him yesterday, this kid is 20 years old. He is crushing it. We jump on a call and it's part coaching call, part like me interviewing this guy. And so for the first 10 minutes, I'm literally like, okay, dude, break it down for me. How are you getting so many clients and how is it working so well? And keep in mind, I'm the dude teaching this guy. I feel like I should know, right? But he's walking me through. And so keep in mind, some of the strategy stuff I'll go over right now for simplicity's sake, but this isn't the biggest reason why he said he's got 17 clients in 23 days. So from a strategy perspective, it's very straightforward. In our community, in our world, we talk about having one funnel and one offer to 100K a month. And so he's focused in on building a community funnel on Instagram. Now, the ins and outs of the funnel are actually not the most important piece of this. He's got some content. He's got an appointment setting system behind it. He has a very lean team. It's him and a content person, and he's just hired a virtual assistant. But he has a community funnel that he focuses in on Instagram. He has a little bit of paid ads that's growing it, very basic, very straightforward. And then on the back end of that, he has a YouTube channel that he uses to nurture his audience. And if you've been following me for a while, you know this is one of the staples of our strategy, that we have a community funnel where we grow an audience and then we also send them to YouTube content to nurture them in a deeper way. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is, the strategy. This is what's causing the magic. And of course, there is importance in the strategy. But he's actually been doing this strategy for a little while now as we've been working together. But what led to the success and what he told me was behind the momentum really surprised me. I was like, okay, dude, break it down for me. Why is it working so well? And he's like, yeah, strategy's cool. It's simple. It's really easy to implement. I've got more leads than I know what to do with. But honestly, the thing that has made the biggest difference is the work that you've been making me do on myself. And he's like, I have been focusing on my relationship with God. I've been focusing on doing like the deep work, dealing with past trauma, dealing with like all of these personal issues that I felt like were holding me back. And now, and this is his words, he said, now people are seeing in my content, he's like, people are remarking that there's something different about me. Like there's all of these other people that look and sound like me in terms of the coaching and the offers and the funnels. But he says people every day are messaging me going, I don't know, man, something's different about who you are, about your energy. You seem to be so different than all the other guys. And he said, that's because I'm so deeply focused on working on myself that everything is now coming from a better place. I'm now less focused on making money and I'm more focused on serving people. I'm less focused on just creating content to book calls and get clients, and I'm more focused on actually adding value to people. And this lesson shouldn't have taken me off guard nearly as much as it did, but I was so impressed. And the point I want to really dive into here is, he talked about his relationship with God and things like that. Regardless of what you believe, there is a lesson and a principle that I think most of us ignore that we have to address if we want to experience sustained success. And it's best summed up in a quote from one of my really good friends and mentors, a guy called Alex Sharfin. He says this: if you don't yet have the business that you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. Let me say that one more time. If you don't yet have the business that you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. This is what I have learned in my own life, is that short-term success can be built through hustle. You can get great months in business just through sheer force of will. You can do the work, you can put out the content, you can hustle your way to some big months, whether it's 5-figure months, whether it's 6-figure months, even 7-figure months. But you cannot experience sustained success without doing the internal work, without really committing to the journey of self-mastery. And this reminds me of a question that someone asked me a few weeks ago as I was sharing more about the ins and outs of our business, because we've gone through a number of different evolutions and iterations over the last few years. And I want to be super clear. Not everything I've touched has turned to gold. Not everything I've done has worked. We've experienced so many setbacks and challenges along the way. But what happened was in 2018, I finished being a youth pastor. I stepped into the online space and I made $12,000 cash in my first 30 days. I never went under $10,000 a month. Now that's not a super common experience for a lot of people. Then from there, when I relaunched, I guess I should say, Agency 2.0, we went from 0 to 100K a month in 9 months. Then further on down the track, when I ended up launching a coaching program, we went from 0 to 347,000 cash in a single month, not accumulated, in a single month, in 16 months. And now I've launched this new kind of coaching offer 5 years into the journey, where it's basically me and a virtual assistant, and I've just had what was just shy of 100K profit in last month's revenue. And I say that to emphasize the point that I answered back to someone who asked me the question, are your results typical? Like, is what you're doing possible for me? Like Mr. Joe Blogs, Jane Doe, can anybody do this? And my short answer is, over a long enough time horizon, I believe everyone is capable of building $1 million profit business. Now, of course, there are so many caveats in that, but my point is that I believe in people's potential so deeply that I don't think I'm anyone special. I don't think this is reserved for some kind of elite person. I think with the right offer, with the right mindset, and the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video, anyone can. But what I said to them was, no, it's not typical to do it on my time frame, because I've had a decade of deep personal work that's led me into it. In my early 20s, I really talk about this often because it's kind of a weird thing to talk about. I don't even really know how to explain it. But there was a period of time where I fasted more than I ate. So I went through a period of time where I just did hundreds of days of fasting. Now, if you're having a picture of like some monk just drinking, like sipping on water, doing 40-day fast in a cave, that wasn't me. Like, I was working jobs, I was drinking smoothies and having juices, and every fast was different. But there was a period of time where I was reading a book a week. I was listening to a podcast a day as a 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old, and I was abstaining from food for weeks or sometimes months at a time. That's all a part of this personal development journey. As I was stepping into youth ministry, and I was this youth pastor, over 9 years, I spoke on stage over 500 times. Sometimes to groups of 10 people. I spoke one time to a group of 5,000. I had a decade of all of this work that I was putting into my craft, into myself, stacking my traits, improving my beliefs, to then set me up to kind of win in the business space. And again, lots of setbacks, lots of obstacles. Nothing I've done has ever been perfect, but I've definitely experienced success faster than many people because of this big secret sauce, so to speak. And I want to break it down into 3 different words that I think all of us need to familiarize ourselves with if we want to have sustained success. If you're just interested in flash in the pan, big month, hustle, ignore the deep work, this video isn't for you. I'm talking to people who want sustained success, who want to build a business that as it gets bigger, life gets better and not worse. And you also, as profits increase, happiness increase, health increases, that you still have fun in the business that you're trying to build. And so it comes down to these 3 words that I think are imperative for us to know and familiarize ourselves with in doing this work of self-mastery, okay? The first word is heart. Actually, let me tell you all 3 words. Heart, head, hands. Heart, head, hands. Let me break it down each piece by piece. Heart is how I describe like your character traits. It's the essence of who you are. If you want to achieve sustained success, not just one great month, not just one great week of getting clients, but sustained success where as it gets bigger, life gets better, you go from strength to strength, not from mountaintop to valley, you need to figure out how to continually grow your character traits. Things like patience, generosity, things like your integrity, your trustworthiness, your emotional intelligence. Really, it's shaping the essence of who you are. And one of the things that I believe is, and regardless of what you believe, is I believe we are spiritual beings. Now, you don't have to believe what I believe to kind of get this point. When we are growing our business, it is not just an outside in process. It is not just about getting the right funnel or getting the right ad strategy or hiring the right people. I mean, aren't you already sick of people telling you if you just stole their funnel, you could get the exact results they got, and then you do it and you go, wait a minute, something's like off or missing right here. And it's often because they are a different person. They've gone through a journey, a spiritual transformation of sorts, where they are now different to the people we are. And so we can do what they do, but we are not who they are. There's a different part of the equation that we seem to be missing. And So this idea of heart in the terms of self-mastery is working on ourselves. It's like when we get angry, what do we do with that anger? Do we let it control the way we market and sell for the next week? When a client leaves unexpectedly, do we lose our mind and blow up and then all the next client calls are absolutely rubbish? All of these things are a part of this journey of self-mastery. It's like Alex Sharfin said, if you don't have the business you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. And if you think about your aspiration, the business that you aspire to build, that's going to take a certain type of person to build and run that business. You cannot build a 7-figure business with 6-figure character traits. You need to upskill and improve and develop and commit to the deep work of improving your heart, of improving your essence. So this is the first H, right? Heart. The second one is head. Now, this is where it gets so important to understand that every single one of us have beliefs going through our heads every single day. There's different estimates, but we all have tens of thousands of thoughts every single day. Probably some of us a little bit less than others. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is that we all have so many thoughts. And the reality is that we either have disempowering thoughts or empowering thoughts. Another way to say it is we have beliefs that undermine us, or we have beliefs that empower us. Like when you go out to market and sell, are you believing that this is supposed to be hard, that getting clients is hard, that you have to convince people, maybe even borderline manipulate people to get them to pay you thousands of dollars? Now, this might not be a conscious belief, but many of us are running around with subconscious beliefs that undermine us all day, every day. And so we have to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We have to change the way that we think. We have to level up our beliefs. We have to level up our thinking. And so the question that I'd pose to you is, when you think about the thoughts you have towards yourself, around the business, the clients that you work with, the path that you're on, do you feel like your thoughts are helping you in that journey? Or do you feel like you're having to fight your thoughts every day, minute, and hour of the week to kind of continue to move forward? For many people, they're prisoners of their own mind. And what we have to do is become like the prison guard, to like let the doors open, to really get to a point where our beliefs are serving us. And I'd really highly recommend, I don't normally recommend books, but like if you want to check out any book on this, there's a great book. I think the author's name is James Allen. The book's called As a Man Thinketh. And there's this beautiful metaphor of this idea that our mind is like a garden. And in order for the garden to flourish, we have to constantly be pulling out the weeds that restrict the growth of the flowers or the plants that we're actually trying to see flourish. And so when you think about your thoughts, you have to actually think about the way that you think. You have to intentionally shape your thought life to be filled with empowering beliefs that are going to allow you to become the person that you need to be to run this business, versus being a prisoner of thoughts that are keeping you captive, that are holding you back, and that are getting in the way or slowing you down or stopping you from achieving the sustained success. So we've talked about heart, which is our essence, head, which is our mind. The last piece, which is so often overlooked, is our hands, right? Heart, head, hands. Hands is about our skill set. It's about our actual competency in what we do. So let me loop back to Grayson from the start of the conversation. What's really important to understand about Grayson is Grayson, although he's 20 years old, which is insane. Like I think about myself as a 20-year-old and I'm like, this kid had no idea, but this kid, Grayson, is really, really onto it. He has really good skills in the areas that he actually coaches on. So he might be 20, but he's not a beginner. He's not a newbie. He's actually skilled at what he does. And so that allows him to get 17 clients in 23 days, right? It's not just a magic funnel. It's that he's good at implementing the funnel that he's built. He's good on video. He's good at copywriting. He's good at coaching people. And so when it comes to this journey of scaling, when it comes to this idea of sustained success, that as business gets bigger, life gets better, we have to have skills that back up our ambition. And so for me, I'd never consciously marketed anything in my life. But what's funny, and I hope this isn't like sacrilegious to say, is as a pastor, I feel like I'd been like marketing Jesus for 9 years, right? Like I'd been like standing on stage trying to persuade people that Jesus' way of life was better than most of our ways of life. And so I was like trying to persuade them on like, we should do what he says and we should like go where he goes and we should follow what he's doing. And this idea of stacking skills was so prevalent in my life, I just didn't know it. So when I stepped into marketing, I actually had a lot of the skills, even though I'd never run a Facebook ad in my life, even though I'd never built a funnel in my life, because I've been stacking skills for so many years leading up to this. And so an important question to ask yourself is, what skills do you need to have to build the business and run the business that you hope of running? Because chances are there's going to be some skill deficits between where you are and where you want to get to, between the business that you're capable of running now and the business you aspire to run further down the path. And so this idea of skill sets is typically something that's an afterthought. We think if we just get the right script or the right funnel or the right ad strategy, that everything else just magically falls into place. But they need to have the right skills. We need to have the right skills in order to implement it well, in order to actually see the results that we want to see. So I want to land the plane here. It's so important to understand that behind every coaching success story, right? Whether you're following me and you're going, man, I would love to have some of what Dan has, or whether you're listening to stories of people like Grayson, 17 clients in 23 days, and you think, oh my gosh, what's the magic funnel? What's the magic strategy? Let me remind you, the strategy is so important. Too many people have stupid strategies. They've got too many offers, too many funnels. They're putting too much energy in too many different directions. But strategy is the easy part. The hard part is self-mastery. The hard part is becoming the person who can run the business that you aspire to run, that you aspire to have, that you aspire to scale. So when you're thinking about this journey, don't just think about it in terms of like, oh my gosh, I have to like do a lot of work and go to a lot of therapy and like, jump on some plant medicine journeys and all the rest of it. Like that can all be a part of it. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that you have to consciously improve the areas of your life that are causing you or holding you back, right? So you look at heart, head, hands, and you consciously ask yourself, where in those areas am I being held back, slowed down? Am I being stopped from getting to where I want to be, to becoming the person I need to become in order to run the business that I aspire to run? So I'm hoping this has been helpful for you today. If you have any questions, let me know below. And I want to encourage you, regardless of the funnel, regardless of whether you and I ever work together, regardless of what coaching program or strategy you take on, make sure that you remember that the strategy is the easy part. The hard part is self-mastery. But if you actually commit to the path of self-mastery, you actually commit to doing the work internally, and you commit to a success formula that is inside out, not outside in, you will achieve sustained success. Not just one cool month, not just a string of great clients, and then you go from mountaintop to valley, but you will actually be able to go from strength to strength to strength. So love you heaps. Talk soon, and I'm hoping this was helpful.